Hi, I'm Brenda Quintana, coming to you from the Beehive at cubiesquest.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make this magical card using the Cosmic Background Technique and the Magical Day bundle. This bundle consists of the Magical Day stamp set and the Magical Mates Framelits. And I just love this bundle because there's so many fun and creative ways to use these cute images and framelits. I invented the Cosmic Background Technique just to show off this very special dragon. And I just played around with shimmery white cardstock and sponge daubers and spritzers and all sorts of things. And I just came up with a way to create this colorful kind of cosmic looking background. So I'm going to show you how to make this card from start to finish. Let's get started. To start off with, you're going to want to protect your work surface. I'm just using a piece of the grid paper here. And you're going to need shimmery white cardstock. This cardstock has a bit of a coating on it, so you'll really want to get this particular cardstock for this technique. I've cut this piece to 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. Next, you're going to need the 2016-2018 ink colors that will be retiring soon. These were such great colors, so make sure you have an ink refill for each color you want to keep going and stock up on cardstock. Once the retirement list is posted at the beginning of April, it will be really hard to get ink refills and cardstock, so make sure you don't delay in getting yours. I'm going to open up each one of my ink pads and place them down at the top right here in the order that I'm going to be using them. So we have Peekaboo Peach, Sweet Sugar Plum, Flirty Flamingo, Emerald Envy, and Dapper Denim. And then I took some sponge daubers and I designated one sponge dauber for each color of ink pad. We're going to start off with the lightest color, which is Peekaboo Peach. So I'm going to daub it into my ink pad, and then I'm going to sponge off a couple times so we don't have that big circle. And I'm going to be working up in the top right quadrant of my piece of cardstock. That's where the greeting's going to go, and I want it to be on the lightest spot. So I'm going to start by moving my sponge dauber around in a circular motion, even a little bit towards the oval side. I'm just going to run it around until some of the color comes down. You can always go back over and add more color as time goes on. So there's my Peekaboo Peach splotch. Then I'm going to work to my Sweet Sugar Plum. Again, I'm daubing it into the ink pad and then daubing it off a few times. Now I'm going to go around my Peekaboo Peach, also in a circular motion, kind of blending the edges together. Then I'm going to take my next color, which is Flirty Flamingo, do some daubing in that, sponge off a couple of times, and come around with the next color. I can come back later and deepen these colors if I want. For now, I'm just trying to get the layout. Next, we're going to take Emerald Envy, ink it up, daub off a couple of times, and come around and do the Emerald Envy. Every time you do this, it's going to look different, but that's part of the charm. No two of these cards will look alike. And last but not least, we have the Dapper Denim. Now, there won't be enough room to do Dapper Denim in this corner, so you're just going to have to kind of come around here. I'm going to kind of do this side first, top corner. And don't worry if you've got a little bit more color in one area than another. When we add water, this will even out a bit. And remember, it's supposed to be a cosmic background. It's not supposed to look equal and perfect. And then we'll come along here and do this bottom. And I'm going to blend in a little bit with my green. All right, so now I'm just going to go back and see if I can deepen the colors just a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. We've got all the color laid down now. So now you're going to want to protect your work area with something a little sturdier that can retain water. So I'm just going to use a paper plate and I'm going to put my background piece down on that. You're going to need a Stampin Spritzer filled with water, and you're going to need a tissue nearby to help absorb the water. The key when spritzing this is you'll want to spritz it from about 12 inches away. So I'm going to hold it up a little bit away. I'm going to spritz it maybe 6 to 7 times. Have a look at it, see if there's enough water on it. And if there's enough water, I'm going to stop right there and count 10 seconds. So let's start and spritz. Sometimes when you spritz, your aim isn't as true, so you might need to spritz a few more times than you think. I like to use my thumb to spritz. All right, I think that looks good, so I'm going to count 10 seconds. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you need to put the tissue on top and absorb all of the water that you can onto the tissue. This is actually going to take some of the color away, and that's what's going to give it that speckled cosmic type look. Let's have a look and see how that looks so far. Oh wow, that is so different than the other backgrounds I've created. I had a little bit of water running here, but that's the cool thing about this technique. It still looks good. It still looks like a cosmic background. So I love how this one turned out. You're going to want to let your background dry for about half an hour to make sure it's really good and dry before you continue to work on it. Here is a background that I created earlier, and your cardstock will kind of curl up, so we're going to need to straighten it out before we can go any further. So I'm going to work from the back, and I'm just going to kind of roll it a little bit going the other direction to get it to curl back. Okay, so now I've got my background straightened out. Now I want to emboss an image on it. So you're going to want to take your embossing buddy and rub it all over the front of the cardstock. Then you're going to take your Versamark pad, and I'm going to be using the greeting, "Hope your day is magical," and ink it up really well into that Versamark. And I'm going to want to stamp it over top of my Peekaboo Peach area. Lift that off. And then I'm going to take some silver embossing powder. I think this looks really great in the background because it's a little bit shiny. I've dumped my silver embossing powder into a plastic container to make it easier to use. And I'm going to take a little baby spoon and sprinkle my embossing powder right over top of that image I just stamped. And then I'm going to tap off the excess embossing powder. Make sure that embossing powder has reached all parts of your image, and if it hasn't, just sprinkle a little bit over top again and tap it off again. Then you're going to use your heat tool, and I've got it right here. I'm going to put it on the highest level, which is 2. I always like to heat it up for a few seconds before I start on my image. Okay, I'm going to start in the bottom corner, and I'm going to just rotate it a little bit. You're going to see the embossing powder change color, and then you'll move on to the next section. Always hold it up to the light to make sure everything has embossed. And that looks really good. You can set this piece aside for a moment. Next, you're going to need a scrap of the shimmery white cardstock and the basic black ink pad. I'm going to be stamping my dragon onto the shimmery white right down here. I'm going to use my heat tool to heat set this image because of the shimmery surface. So just run your heat tool over top of the dragon just to make sure that the ink has set before we die cut it. Then you're going to need your Big Shot, and I'm going to be using my magnetic platform. You can use your regular platform as well. The magnetic platform just helps the die stay in place a little bit better. I've got one of my cutting plates down already, and I'm going to need the image that I just stamped. I'm going to use the dragon outline to cut it out. I'm also going to cut out the fire breath of the dragon. So first of all, let me put this around the dragon, and then this little piece can go anywhere on the shimmery white cardstock. And when you like how that looks, put the second cutting plate on top, put it down, and then we can run it through the Big Shot. So here's my little fire breath piece, and here is the dragon. So now you're going to need to protect your work surface again. So I've got my piece of grid paper back, and now we're going to sponge both of these to add color to them. For the dragon, I'm going to use two colors. I'm going to use Emerald Envy and Dapper Denim. And I'm going to use the corresponding sponge daubers. I'm going to start off with using the Emerald Envy, and we're going to really do a deep color, so I'm not going to bother sponging off. He's going to be really dark green for the most part. I just love this dragon. You want to make sure he's like really dark. You want to make him stand out from the background that he's in. I'm going to really deepen him up. Okay, now my dragon looks really green. Now we're going to take some of the Dapper Denim ink, and we're going to hit certain spots of the dragon, like the scales, the top of the dragon here, the wing, and a little bit on the tail. So come in, and I'm going to sponge along the edge just to deepen it. If you want, you can also put it down here on your work surface and really try and deepen that color. Right here, I don't really want to get his nose, so you can kind of bend his tail back just a wee little bit. Try and get his wing and the back scales right there. And then I'm going to come and do the scales on his legs just a little bit, just to deepen him up a bit. And then on his neck right here. Oh, he looks so good. And there is the dragon all colored. Next we're going to do this little fire breath, and I'm going to need two colors for that. Peekaboo Peach and Flirty Flamingo. Let me open these up. And I'm going to start with my Peekaboo Peach. Ink this little piece up. We're trying to make this look like fire. So just make sure it's as dark as you can get that Peekaboo Peach. Make it nice and dark. And then you can take your Flirty Flamingo and just hit the top edges. And this will just give it a little bit more intensity and shading. And that's what it looks like. And now you're going to need a card base. So I'm going to take a piece of Dapper Denim cardstock that I've cut to 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And I've scored it in half at the 4.25 inch mark. Then you just need to fold it along the score line and use your bone folder to smooth down that fold. Now we're ready to assemble the card. So I'm going to put my card base here. It's best to use a strong adhesive like Tombow to glue your technique piece to the card base. And I'm just going to come along here and make sure I get the glue to the edges or close to the edges, because they're going to want to have a tendency to curl up. And make sure you put Tombow on the back of this. Then you're just going to want to make sure that you center this piece right on your card base. And then just smooth it down with your fingers to make sure that you've got a good seal with your card base. So next we're going to add the dragon and the fire breath on here. So it's best to kind of lay things out first before you start gluing so that you have enough room for both of them. I'm going to use 2 types of dimensionals to adhere the dragon. So let me lift him off and add a few to his body. And then I'm going to use a couple of mini dimensionals, one for his head and one for his tail. Just need to remove those backings. And now my dragon's ready to adhere. So I'm going to see where that fire breath is. Make sure he's straight near the bottom. And then we can just add a little bit of Tombow to the back of the little fire breath. And then we can just add that right by his mouth. And there you go. Didn't this technique turn out great? And I think it would work well with the other magical creatures in that set as well. If you didn't want to use the dragon, you could use the unicorn or the mermaid or the wizard. And I think it would create a nice effect as well. All the supplies you'll need to make this technique card are available for purchase on my blog. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Bye for now. If you like this tutorial, be sure to check out all the free with purchase tutorials available on my blog. The birdhouse tutorial is just one of the exclusive tutorials that you can choose free with a minimum purchase in my Stampin' Up! Store. Hi, it's Brenda again. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also visit my blog for more information on my projects and to learn about my rewards program, or just watch another one of my videos. Thanks for watching.